Welcome to the What to Read Next podcast. In this podcast, host Lori and me will share a few book recommendations on what you should read next. If you have a passion for books, then join us for this fun bookish episode. Welcome to the What to Read Next podcast. I'm so happy to have you back. Today I have a fun solo show where I talk all things historical romance. If you've been listening for a while, you know I'm a newly fan of historical romance and I've started reading on a whim and I haven't stopped. I read about 25 books so far, so this episode I want to share historical romance that are new, that are coming up this winter, spring, or summer. And so these books are either on their way to be released or they're already out. I'm going to share a backlist historical romance episode in the future. Some of the historical romance authors that I've discovered, and their backlist titles you can get it from your library. So I look forward to sharing those with you. All right, let's get to the list. So the first book is my go-to historical romance author, which is Lisa Kleypas, and it's book 6 in the Ravenel series, but you should read them in order. So that is Chasing Cassandra. This book came out in February, and it was just so good. This book reminded me of Cinderella with the self-made men. There's a marriage of convenience, but it doesn't happen until later on in the book. So if you're looking for a true marriage of convenience, this is not it. But it's really good. I love the hero. He was so sweetie. He was so strong and sweetie. So it was just really good. But I encourage you to read them in order. So if you haven't started the series, I would just go with book 1 and just go forward. Because it's part of the family. So there's like different characters that come up. And so if you're reading this standalone, you may get lost and you may not know who these characters are and how they relate to the story. So I hope you enjoy it. The next book is Never Kiss a Duke by Megan Frampton. I picked this book on a whim because Megan shared a tweet of a 1-star review where it says, there's too much sex. And I was like, oh my gosh, one click for that. So I'm a romance reader who loves sex in their books. So anytime there's like too much sex, I feel like that's a book for me. So I just figured out on a whim, and it was just so good. So this book is set in a gambling hall. The heroine is the leader of the gambling hall. She owns the gambling hall, and so the hero is a bastard who lost his title, so he needs to start working. So he gets a job in the gambling hall, and it's like office tension, sexual tension. You're will they, won't they? They're supposed to, they're not supposed to. It's just so good. So if you like books set in the gambling hall and with the heroine is the leader of it, this is just for you. All right. The third book is A Heiress to Remember My Overdell. And I have to tell you, I absolutely love this series. This series is about badass female entrepreneurs. It's set in New York City in the 1890s. And they each talk to a different innovation. So the first book in the series is Duchess by Design. And it's about pockets in her dresses and having your own design line. The second book is Some Like It Scandalous. And it's about face masks, creams, and makeup, and it's just so good. And the third book in the series is about department stores, and it's just so good. So it's about competing department stores, a second chance romance between a divorcee. She was a heiress who got married off to England to a duke because they needed money, and so she got married off, and she was able to get divorced, and she came back to New York to take over her father's business, which is a department store. And so her long lost love, he owns another competing department store who's basically taking over New York. And so it's a really fun book where you get to see the innovation in department stores, and you don't think about it now, but there are innovations at a time where like beauty salons, restaurants, women's ladies' rooms. It's just so good. The romance is really steamy. There's office romance. It's actually really cool. So this was a good series. If you want a badass female entrepreneur with female friendships, this is a book for you. This series is just so good. So I love it. I love it set in New York City. I love this in the 1890s where it's just like there's like money, there's class, there's lower class, there's just like all this good stuff that just happened. So A Heiress to Remember is a must pick. So as you know, I'm a huge fan of the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. I read 7 out of the 8 books. I'm waiting to finish. I don't know if I want to finish the 8th book. I don't know. I think a part of me is like, if I finish and the series is over, and then I'm just going to be devastated. So I'm just holding on to 8th book. I'm probably going to read it right before the series comes out on Netflix, so I can just be fresh. But yeah, I don't know. But Julia Quinn has been releasing prequels, or like, Family Before the Bridgertons. And so this is the 4th book in the series, but I read it standalone, and I did not miss anyone. There are cameos from the Bridgertons, from the children. So Anthony, Benedict, and Colin are show up in this book, but they're like kids, so it's kind of cute. So you're just like, oh, it's so cute. So there's like some Bridgerton crossover, but it's not a lot, so you can read it as standalone. So this book is First Comes Scandal, and it's a marriage convenience for the virgin hero. I want to preface that this book is fluff. There's really not a lot of conflict, and if there's conflict, it gets resolved really easily. So it's a book that's a feel-good book. So I read it at a time where we were at the stay-at-home order just started, and I just moved, and I just wanted something that was just not angsty and not, too much conflict and too much, like, stress. So this book just filled that need. So if you're looking for some more conflict, some more angsty, this book is not for you. But if you're looking for fluff or something easy, something fun, something just kind of cute to read, then this book is for you. That's the preface, but it's just so good. I love this book so much. I hope you enjoy it. The next book is To Have and to Hugs by Martha Waters, and this is a marriage couple in crisis book. And so I've been reading marriage couples in crisis for a while, and I do enjoy them. It's like a second chance romance. You just like realize marriage is not as easy as you think it is, and it's not the happily ever after as you imagine. But I feel like this book just missed the mark. So this book was basically the married couple had a fight, and then they got married really young, very quick, and then they had a major fight, and they stopped talking to each other for 4 years. And then lo and behold, the hero falls out of his horse and gets unconscious, and then Heron finds out, and she's like, oh my gosh, he may die, so I'm gonna go figure out. And she has like this come to Jesus moment. And then she sees the hero's fine, and so she decides that she's gonna call in sick, and then she's gonna threaten. So it's a way for the hero to feel the same feelings she has, and so hopefully the marriage can actually evolve. I wish there was more banter. I wish they talked to each other. If they had talked to each other from the get-go, we probably wouldn't have a book. But I feel like that's what it is. It's just there was a lot of miscommunication in this book. So for me, it missed the mark. But for other people who read it, they enjoy it. They enjoy the historical romance. It's a fun historical romance for beginners. I think it's just fun. You may want to pick it up. The next book is How to Catch an Arrow by Amy Rose Bennett. This is this reputable debutante series, and it can be read as standalone, but I read the first book in the series. It's just really good. So the series preface is the herons there's a group of herons, a group of friends who are finishing school, and they decide to spend one night drinking and just like smoking cigarettes and looking at sex scenes, and they get caught and they get kicked out of the school. So then decide that they're going to find husbands, and so they make a list of like these rakes and viscounts and dukes and earls who can be potential husbands for them. And so this is a series about them finding husbands, and even though they are finding husbands, there's also other interests within the process. So in this book, the heroine goes to the continent on a tour, and one of the stops in Switzerland, she meets the Earl in just a random place, and so they connect, and he's like, oh, I have a letter for you, because the Earl is friends with brothers, best friends, so it's kind of like cute like that. So the Earl comes to the house and brings a letter, but there's an accident, and so they're caught in a compromised position, and they're like, oh my gosh, we gotta get married. So they got married, and then the heroine wanted to start an orphanage, and so she had this whole idea of starting an orphanage. She's been invested in medicine, so there's like all these interests around it, and there's another plot around the Earl's title. So it was really engaging. Even though they got married really quickly, there was still like a whole process, and they were like, do they fall in love or not fall in love, and is it the right match, is it a love match or not? And so this book was really good. I really loved that Heron had another interest outside of marriage, and that she was so invested in it, and she was like, I'm not gonna stop for you, I'm gonna do this. And I think that was a really good thing to look forward. The next book is To Catch an Arrow by Kate Bateman. I think I had Kay Bidman come into the show in October, and I met with her probably in August, and that was the first historical romance I read. I think it was just like, I love the meet cute for that historical romance. I believe is This Earl Mine, and the historical romance, basically the meet cute was she wants to be a widow, so she goes to prison to find a husband, and lo and behold, the husband doesn't die. So she's like, oh shit, I have to be married. So that book was just so good. So I was like looking forward to book 2, and book 2 did not disappoint. So it's actually a jewel thief who has good intentions, and she is stealing jewels, and the Bow Street investigator is an earl that she met a few years ago, and she fell in love with him. He fell in love with her, but they just kiss, and they just like never seen the night. So they connect, and he's like investigating her crimes, and he's like, oh my gosh. So you're like, it's a cat and mouse game. There's actually a plot around like the French jewels, and there's like all these different things that happen, and it's just like so engaging. It's like action packed. So if you're looking for historical romance, there's like romance, but there's like suspense. This book has it. And so this felt really good. This felt like, I read it in a couple of settings. It was just like a great escape for me. And finally, I read The Rakes by Scarlett Peckham, and it is perfection. So The Rakes is basically the one woman trope meets a female rake, and there's just perfection. And so it's based on Mary Wollstonecraft, and so she based on a real life person, and is like really good. And so it deals with like, so a couple of trigger warnings. It deals with alcoholism, child loss, and maternal death. So just want to give you the trigger warnings, but it's just like, I feel like you touch upon historical issues such as contraceptions, women's rights, childbirth mortality, and sheds the light on them. I really love the romance. The romance, he's a single parent, he's a single dad, widow, and so I love the children, and she takes care of them. Like she's like so present to them, and she's so conscious about like what she wants and what she want to get out. And so the romance like happened. It was slow burn, but it's just like really good. The hero was just like so sweet. He was like so perfect for her, and like he supported her. Like it was just like one of those basically heroes who was like, I'm gonna support you even though like, you know, it may damage my reputation, I'm gonna still support you. And he went to bat for her, and I felt like really good. And you know, it touched upon the society's issues about, you know, a ruined woman, and how she gets ruined, and how the double standard of the woman gets the blame of it while the man gets all the glory about it. So it was a really good book, and I really enjoyed it, and it comes out April 28th. And if you haven't picked it up, pick it up. It's just so good. So these are new and upcoming historical romance that I hope you pick up. If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share it with friends and share a review on iTunes. This is the best way to support the show. Want to join a romance-loving community, make new friends, and get book recommendations? Join our Patreon Romance Book Club. For $5 a month, you'll be part of a virtual book club, an Instagram chat, and get monthly book recommendations. Please note I'll be donating 10% of the profit to a COVID-19 relief fund each month. To sign up, just join the link in the show notes. What to Read Next podcast is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you love on frolic.media/podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in a few days with a brand new episode. Have a great day.